Hey YouTube, it's day 25 of VDOG. So today was one of my first legitimate days of classes where we talked about actual stuff and not just syllabi. And I think my favorite class this semester is going to be gender and politics. So today I want to talk about what I talked about in that class because I found it interesting and I think you will find it interesting, hopefully. And so one of the things we talked about was kind of stuff I've talked about in my previous vlog earlier this month about gender and masculinity and femininity, and how when we define the terms masculine and feminine, they are defined in opposition to one another. So to be feminine is to not be masculine and vice versa. And this creates some problems, as you can imagine, especially with politics. Because masculinity is favored over femininity, and so our politicians tend to have more masculine traits, which I mean, sometimes it is good to be aggressive, but that doesn't mean we should ignore things like, compromise, which is typically considered more feminine, because when you have politicians that refuse to compromise, then you end up with a debt ceiling crisis that happened. Yeah, I am not a fan of not compromising. Another thing that I found interesting from this class was we talked about how after 9/11, America went through a remasculinization in which we went back to more traditional gender roles and politics became very masculinized, at least according to this book right here. It talked about how before we'd have some women talking about international politics, and then right after 9/11 happened, we just had a bunch of military guys on our news talking about the military. And I mean, you can argue about whether the military is good or bad, but I think we can all agree that just a military is probably not the best. It's good to have a good variety of opinions and viewpoints and stuff, especially because the military is very masculine, and so it's associated with aggressiveness and violence and brute force and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, we find ourselves in Iraq and Afghanistan, and when we invaded Afghanistan, a lot of the people there felt very threatened, obviously, because we were invading them, and so they felt demasculinized, and so as a result, they went back to a more masculinized society and more traditional gender roles and stuff. And it was very bad for the women in those countries because I guess before they had more freedom, but then afterwards things got a lot stricter because the men felt threatened. And so then you want lots of rules and stuff that enforce masculinity and put masculinity on top, so they could at least feel secure in some aspect of their life. And I was just struck by how this devaluing of one part of society, and devaluing more specifically being associated with demasculinization or feminization, leads to further devaluing of other people. So, you devalue working class men, and then you devalue women, and then you're devaluing animals and the environment and stuff, and that's just bad for everyone involved. That's the moral for this vlog today. Don't devalue people because that's bad. And more importantly, gender norms are stupid and cause lots of problems, and we should not have some of the social norms we have. At least in my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you all tomorrow.